Welcome back, everybody. Another day, another shiur. Just to quickly connect to our last shiur with regards to the fact that it has to be specifically basar v'dam, a man of flesh and blood, a physical person. So just to add another point, he brings another nukuda with regards to the physical person. It's not. It's a regular thing in Judaism for things to be expressed through people. We see that all the hashbais, all the godly hashbais, all the godly blessings that are drawn down for the Jews, and also generally the way the world goes, everything has to come through a person, a physical person, in this physical world, and like the Rebbe defines it as a nasi adar. This is in every generation. And because this is the way the world works, this is the way Hashem set up the world, that everything has to come through a physical person. From the time the Jews became a nation, in Exodus and Matan Torah, the resting of the Shekhinah on the Mishkan, everything was specifically through Moshe Rabbeinu. More specifically, the actual establishment of the Mishkan was according to the command of Moshe Rabbeinu himself. After he did it, they brought the Mishkan to Moshe Rabbeinu, and it was specifically had to be done through Moshe Rabbeinu. And similarly, when the Jews needed meat, the meat came down, the blessing of the meat came through Moshe Rabbeinu Davka, and so on and so forth. And it's similarly in every single generation, in all the generations. Any godly revelation to the Jews was through people in this physical world, physical people in this physical world. And so too it will be with regards to the ultimate, the greatest revelation of the Geulah HaMitzvah Shlema, that even then it's going to have to be a man of flesh and blood, a physical person, Malchus Mashiach. So now that we got that established, that is part of the thing, let's go to Perek Revi, the 4th chapter. What does it mean to believe in the coming of Mashiach? So until now we spoke about the general concept of Mashiach. What is it? What's the days of Mashiach? What is it going to look like? It's an expression. It's the completion, the culmination of everything and drawing down the realization of the purpose of the creating the world. And we give a bunch of different explanations what that means, what that looks like, how it's expressed. Then we spoke about the concept of the believing in Mashiach. Then we spoke about Mashiach and Halacha, and then we got to the concept of believing. What are we believing in? So the belief is that we're believing in Melech HaMashiach, the person. Mashiach is going to come and redeem us, and it is the most fundamental point is that Mashiach is going to reveal Hashem's kingship. Anyways, so let's talk about the importance of the belief in Mashiach, but we have to understand how that's expressed. Okay, so the Rambam writes, that he puts it in the 13 fundamentals of faith, and he writes in Pirsha Mishnayos in the Hakdama to Perek Chelek HaYisod Shnei Maser. What's the thing? That it's the belief in the days of Mashiach. Fine. In Hilchos Shuvah he also writes that that there's those that deny the revival of the dead and the coming of the Redeemer, and basically it's all part of you have to believe it. If you don't believe it, you are a heretic. And the famous Ani Mamin that everybody says, at least not Chabad, they write it, and they say it normally, but everybody definitely sings the song, Ani Mamin B'Emunah Shalem V'Yas HaMashiach Achaka B'Chol Yom Sheyavei, and we will await for his arrival every single day. So we need to understand this established belief. Why is the coming of Mashiach considered as something so fundamental to the faith, to the Jewish faith? The concept of fundamentals of faith as the basically means that you can't, in order to subscribe to the Jewish faith, to be part of it, you have to also believe in these things. That it's so fundamental that if you're missing any of them, then you are lacking in everything. So, for examples, the Metzius of Hashem, the existence of Hashem, and the belief in the Torah that it's true. That obviously, if you're lacking in any of those, so those make sense, right? If you're missing in any of them, then you're missing in entire Judaism. But with regard to the coming of Mashiach, we have to understand why it's considered so fundamental and so foundational. And is it possible to believe in Hashem, in Hashem's oneness, right? That He's only one, and there's the Torah is true, without believing in Mashiach? Is that possible? In fact, there are many Geulah Yisrael. There are a few Geulah Yisrael throughout the generations. They argued on the words of the Rambam, and they claim that the coming of Mashiach is not so fundamental. It's not so central to think that it's necessary to put it as one of the fundamentals of faith. But according to the words of the Rebbe, according to the explanation of the Rebbe, we can understand the words of the Rambam very simply. That the belief in the coming of Mashiach expresses the belief in the everlastingness of the Jews, of the nation, the everlastingness of the kingdom of David, and the everlastingness of the mitzvahs of the Torah. These three things are dependent one on each other, and they are considered all of them are considered as foundations to the faith. And the belief in the coming of Mashiach includes all of them together and expresses it in a very clear way. And we will explain it. Okay. So, the everlasting nation, everlasting king, and in an eternal Torah. The existence of the nation of the Yidden is a Metzius Nitzchus She'eino Yochel Lizbatel. It's an everlasting existence that cannot be nullified. Like the Chazal say, Ein HaTzibur Mesim, the congregation does not die. And the connection between the Jews, the Yidden, and Hashem is this, that Hashem chose the Jews to be for him his nation, and he will be for them a king. And this is an internal, everlasting connection that does not change. Now, the Rambam in Sefer HaMitzvos writes about this, the belief in the everlastingness of the nation of the Jews is Sheiresh Gadol Me'od Mishashi Emunah. It's a very, very foundational, the root of all roots to the source, the root of belief. Like it's brought out in Igeres Teiman, that was sent to the Teimani Jews to give them things that to answer the claims of the Muslims, that they would bother them and they would pester them and ask them questions and claim that Hashem removed His covenant with the Jewish people. And the proof is that the Yidden are they're getting poor and there's no salvation for them. They're just God is forsaking them, chas v'shalom. And on this claim, the Rambam responds, Hashem promised us through His prophets that we will not be destroyed and there will not be destruction for the Jews. There will not be an eradication. And we will never cease forever from being a righteous nation. Just like you cannot nullify the existence of Hashem, we so too cannot be destroyed and removed from the world. Like it says, I am Hashem, I will not change, and you, the sons of Yaakov, will never be destroyed. Similarly, Hashem promised us, Hashem notified us, that Hashem is always there. Hashem is a little upset right now, but we were, because of not going over mitzvahs. Anyways, okay. In another place, the Rambam connects it to the pasuk. Just like all of these things are standing in front of me, so too you and your descendants will stand in front of me. Obir and explains, sometimes the descendants stays there, but the name does not. That they're all scrambled, they're all messed up. We still don't know all the linear relations of the nations. This is the very, very special novelty and very special quality of the Jews. Not only Chas v'Shalom have the descendants of Yaakov converted and left the nation of the Yidden, they stood forever as a nation upon themselves, with their own very special name, Yamid Shimachem. Now, these things with regards to the everlastingness of the nation, of the eternity of the nation of Israel, are connected with the godly promise to the everlastingness of the kingdom of David. Starting from the words of Yaakov ibn Eliezer, Shevet mi Yehuda, I will not remove the staff from Yehuda ad ki yaveshilai. This is a promise for the everlastingness of the kingship for the descendants of Yehuda over the Jews until Mashiach comes. And after after David was anointed and crowned as king over the Jews, it says that I have established your chair, your royal throne forever. And the words of David Atzmai, David HaMelech himself, that Hashem chose me from my house, the house of my father, to be a king over the Jews forever. And so on and so forth. Basically, forever. The Rambam Paskins establishes as law, since David HaMelech was anointed, he is merited to the crown, the kingship, and the kingship is his and his sons, the male ones, ad olam, forever and ever. Malchus Beis Dovid, the kings from the house of David stand forever. Now the reason is because the fulfillment of the nation, the establishment, the everlastingness of the nation is only when there is one king that unites all of them into a nation. And when there's no king, there's no nation. Rather, there's a bunch of individuals that are busy with each other, each one in their own thing, and there's no unity between them. Now, when we see in the generations of the nation of the Jews, like when Moshe and Yeshua ruled over them, they were all like one nation with one purpose in everything. And when the two and a half tribes wanted to get for themselves a portion on the other side of the Yarden, Moshe rebuked them and says, everybody else is going to war and you're just going to stay here? Immediately after Yeshua passed away, when the kingship was nullified, they started every single tribe began to just take care of their own tribe, of their own portion. Or if for whatever reason they would, help another tribe, it was always for reward. And like Yehuda said to Shimon, basically, go with me and then I'll go with you. Essentially, we'll pay you back. And so on and so forth. Until the time where there was Shoftim came and they fought the tribes between themselves. Only when they crowned themselves one king over all the Jews, then they were able to return again once more to one nation, all the tribes together, and a clear, revealed unity. And then when the kingship was again divided, so too the Jews became two separate nations, kaviyachal, because we're essentially one. Even though there's always a king that unites us all, it's true. That's the truth. And who is that? That's Hashem. That we are all connected to Hashem and we all unite around Hashem. But in order that this unity and this kingship should be revealed in the world, should be recognized, you need a melech basar v'dam. You need a king of flesh and blood that sits on the crown, the throne of Hashem's kingship, that unites the Jews around him in a revealed way. Kind like we said, therefore the Rebbe connects the Hashem's choice of the Jews and Hashem's choosing to be choosing the kingdom of David as one thing, one entity. Well, like he says, what's the Rebbe say? The Rebbe says in the Sichas Chelek Chafagei, Parashat Chayei Sarah, page 114 and on. The completion of a nation is specifically when they become one nation together. Not when each one is individual. And this is done through a king. Like the Rambam says, regards to the mitzvah, the command of appointing a king, that we were commanded to appoint ourselves a king that will gather all the nations and will guide us. And therefore this is expressed through the general choice of the nation of the Jews as one nation. This, that Hashem chose a king to be over the Jews forever. The choice, Hashem choosing David and Shlomo HaMelech, Malchus Beis Dovid, that stand forever, that through them can come the kingship of Hashem, Hashem's kingship. And therefore the promise on the everlastingness of the kingdom of David, is a direct continuation of the promise of the everlastingness of the Jews. And like the Rebbe says in the same thing, this that the kingdom of David stand forever, being that David HaMelech's crown is connected to Hashem's choice, Hashem choosing him. You can't have a true disruption and a change. And this is similar to the differentiation between the Jews as they were the sons of Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov until all the generations. Hashem always chose us. We're the same nation. Because when Hashem chooses, Asher B'chat B'Avram, that you chose Avram, cannot change. There cannot be a change to this decision. And like we said in previous chapters, the Rambam established also this belief in the Malchus Beis Dovid as a foundation to our belief. And he writes, that anybody who disagrees and who argues against it is a heretic to Hashem and to the words of his prophets. And like we said before, we will understand even better, because the belief in Malchus David, in the kingdom of David and its everlastingness, is connected to the belief in Hashem's kingship over the Jews and its everlastingness and its fulfillment and its everlasting eternity of the Jews themselves. So the Rambam continues and he writes in the ninth foundation of the ninth fundamental of faith, this Torah Hashem wrote it, no one else. It didn't come from anybody else. You cannot add to it and you cannot detract from it. And similarly, the Rambam writes in the laws of Malchus Mashiach, this Torah, its laws and its edicts are forever and ever. And you do not add, and you do not detract from them. Anybody who adds or detracts, or you take out the words of the mitzvahs from their simple meaning, you are for sure an evil person and an apikoros. Behold, what do we find? We find that the everlastingness of Torah is connected and dependent on the everlastingness of the Jewish nation. Why? Because Moshe Rabbeinu did not only inherited the Torah mitzvahs to the Jews. Why? Because the mitzvahs of the Torah are a covenant that connects the Jews to Hashem. And therefore, if there's a possibility that the nation of the Jews, the Jewish nation, will be destroyed from the world or will be nullified, Chalila, the covenant between Hashem and the Jews will be nullified, then it's not the implication is that the Torah is not everlasting, being that the mitzvahs of the Torah have no one to, it doesn't apply to anybody. Nobody can do it. Only when you believe, only when we can believe in the everlastingness of the covenant between Hashem and the Yidden, then it's implied that we can have the everlastingness of the mitzvahs of the Torah. And similarly, the opposite, it works the other way. The everlastingness of the Jews is connected and dependent on the everlastingness of Torah. Like the words of the Rambam, that he explains. How does he explain it? He explains that the everlastingness of the Jews, and he ends with this is also helps us with understanding the everlastingness of Torah. And because of the Torah, we have this very special name, meaning to say that the existence, the idea of the nation of the Jews, the Jewish nation, I don't know why I keep saying that, is being that they are a nation of Hashem that came from this covenant. Therefore, when we say that the Jews are everlasting nation, it proves that the covenant of Hashem that is expressed in the 613 commandments is an everlasting bris, like we explained before. We will end it there. We'll continue Ezer Hashem Yisbarach tomorrow, Parak Revi, the end of the 4th chapter, where we are going to speak about will, if you can change, if there's a will that you can change, or there's a will that cannot change, and Mitzvah Hashem will learn that tomorrow. In the meantime, everybody have a beautiful day, have a beautiful night, whenever you're listening to this, and continue learning Inyano Shel Moshiach, whether it's from this shiur or any other shiur. Always be on the lookout for a sefer that speaks about the Inyanim, the concept of Mashiach and Geulah, and always be looking in the world for the things that you learn, how they are expressed, and how you can change your outlook, how you can change your perspective of the world through the things that you have learned in this shiur or any other thing that you've learned on the topic. Everybody, thank you very much.